Major, that euphemistic switch they've done on so many issues, whether it's family, marriage, now it's this issue of sacrifice, or it's women's reproductive health. It's all these euphemisms that are thrown around in distortions of traditional understandings of words and phrases.
Gentler language to convey another thought, and politicians use them, Republicans and Democrats use them. And when you talk about sacrifice, what I'm often curious about is how most American people regard the service they receive from their government. Because if you're going to ask for sacrifice, perhaps those who are sacrificing, and of course every American taxpayer does at one level or another, they might also inquire about the level of service they receive from the government. And I would think any conversation right now between pitting sacrifice against service, the government would come out on the lesser end of that conversation.
Yeah, well,
that's just a hunch.
Well, I think they're in rooms, and they're in strategy rooms over at the Obama White House. And what I think is happening is they're trying to figure out new capacities for branding. What's happened over the 2.5 years, right? They're trying to figure that out, and they're spending a lot of time on it, I think, because the messaging has changed quite a bit. It's gotten a little bit more refined in recent weeks. But I promise you, when you game out the number of hours spent campaigning, entertaining celebrities, doing some recreation stuff, which all presidents do, but some golfing, whatever. Not making the biggest deal of it. It's just funny. And all those things, you add those things up, how much real time in the course of a 24-hour day is being spent on growing this economy? Not raising revenues, but how to grow the economy. And I don't see evidence of that with this president or, frankly, his top staff. They are focused on one war, and that's winning this White House back. And that, to me, seems like that's the goal. Well, and they're pretty good at that.
They are capable. They were capable in 2008. Yes, they are not redirecting, but they're directing more attention to the campaign. Every presidency does at this stage of the first term. I would say the jobs report that came out a month ago that showed an enormously shallow capability of this economy to create jobs, brought about by gas prices, brought about by instability in Europe, brought about by the continuing sense of unease among major sectors of the U.S. economy of what would come next, was the pivot point for this administration, because it undercut everything the president had been saying for a year about this recovery. Remember, last summer we had recovery summer. Well, you can't have two delayed recovery summers in a row. And I think the great issue
now
for
this is called relapse summer.
I think the great issue for this president,
recovery to relapse,
when it comes to the economy, is, do most Americans even listen anymore? And Laura, and I know from studying presidents, when you have a message, and it doesn't matter how many times you retool it, if people aren't listening to you on that core message, it doesn't matter what you say anymore. And I think the president is dangerously close to losing that connection to the American people on what he knows about the economy and what he can predict about the economy. And presidents who can't lead on the economy tend to be replaced. And I think today's Twitter town hall is evidence of a low-level degree of anxiety bordering on panic within the Chicago re-election headquarters, because back in 2008 and 2007, I watched this developed on the ground. There is a sense that, social media created the energy. No, social media harnessed and built it out. It made it exponential. Yes, but it didn't create it in the first place. And you see a lot of sort of feverish attempts to engage social media as if that's the means by which to create energy. No. You create energy by what you do, what you say, and how you lead, especially if you're seeking re-election. And it's at that level that I think the energy pool is much more shallow for President Obama than the campaign would like it to be, certainly, and that most Americans have internalized. I think they're looking at the data and saying, wait a minute, we don't have anywhere near the enthusiasm. So all this social media stuff feels very energetic, but it can't create that which does not exist.
You and I